Um, I did bring a couple images back, so give me a second and I will share the screen. Let me get all this opened again. And we got a couple more people logging in. I don't know why every time I go on Zoom, because all my functions are in a different place than they were just the other night for the judge's corner, which I don't understand. I don't know if it's maybe if I'm a host or not a host or how I logged in. But anyway, okay, so it should be sharing. You guys can see, oh, it's coming up, I think.
You can see that what you are sharing.
Okay, so you can see this image of the lighthouse on Photoshop, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, so as long as my computer doesn't act up, we'll be good. So I was going to talk about a couple things like dodging and burning and just some simple editing things that everybody can do to their images, like cropping or some of the more simple things to fix little issues or little problems. I actually want to open this other one first before I start on this one. So I did get a couple emails, and if the maker is on here, there's never anything that's meaning to be bad about what I'm talking about. I did get a couple emails saying, "Hey, you said this was a really good pictorial." And yes, I did. And what I was speaking of is the pictorial category and what images fit in that. I'm just going to repeat what I said the other night. The images that I did pick have a good mood, they have a good feeling. Actually, let me go. I'm going to go open this real quick as well because we will look at these real quick one more time. Um, and what I was speaking about is things that make you feel good. So clouds are something that makes you feel good. It puts mood into your image. Steps in the sand. I spoke a little bit about this being, if you pick up many Christian books or books on faith, they have footsteps in the sand or footsteps on the beach, whether it's beach or sand dunes. Same thing with reflections, waterfalls. All those give mood to an image where sometimes a documentary doesn't have a lot of mood to it. It has a little bit of a story and a documentation. It still has to be a good image. So I did get called out on this image here tonight, and somebody had said, "Do you feel this is a good image for competition?" And again, that's not what I was talking about the other night. So we're going to bring this one back a little bit because no, I think this has some technical issues with it, even in our competition, whether it was an outside or not. I did talk about the mountains being too bright. I think there's a little bit of too much sharpening that has gone on, and that's why the leaves look funny. But with that said, that's not what I'm talking about tonight or today, rather, either is whether it's good or bad or trying to judge the image. That's not what I was trying to do for Judges Corner this month or for the beginners group. Um, what I'm going to do is we're going to work on this image just a little bit and see if we can at least make it a little bit better with some of the technical qualities. What I'm doing is just creating two duplicate layers. We're going to call one screen and we're going to call one multiply and don't check my spelling. Um, so I'm just talking about things that are easy. Now, there's different ways to dodge and burn, and Photoshop is so advanced that there's probably 15 ways to do every little action, whether it's making a mask or dodging and burning or increasing contrast or exposure because, easily enough for exposure, you have brightness, contrast, levels, curves, exposure, and all of these will add contrast or take contrast out. They all darken or lighten. It's just a different way of doing it, and it affects kind of how the colors and sometimes the pixels react. So there's a lot of ways to do things. Again, I'm just showing you an easy way. And actually, Stephen and I have gone through a lot of this stuff, and I still use things that Stephen has shown me, you know, 10 years ago on Photoshop. Even though there's a lot of easier ways to do it or a lot of different ways to do it, I just wanted to go through a few of these. So let's talk about screen real quick. Screen lightens it. So it's kind of like lighten. So I'm gonna, oh, sorry, get out of there. I'm gonna do this. So we're gonna do screen lighten. So is it not gonna show me or did I type over it? Screen hyphen or slash lighten. There we go. So screen lighten. Um, well, let's go here real quick. And we're gonna go back here. We're gonna go multiply will darken. So there we go. Multiply will darken. So let's type that in there so it's on here because I'm not going to do this the other one. So if anybody wants to screenshot this once we type it in there, um, we'll do darken. So the way Photoshop set this up is here's our original image. Multiply is roughly one stop. Now, all cameras, they have just micro movements of what's going to be one stop uh, with the sensors because sensors are all a little bit different. Manufacturers are all a little bit different, but technically this is one stop of darkness. So we're making it dark one stop. This is lightning, and it's roughly one stop of lightning. I don't think it's a full stop, but that's kind of how it was laid out. So let's do something different. We're going to go here and make this 33. So there we go, 33 and 33. So that is kind of like a third of a stop. So again, if this is our original image and we wanted to darken it a third of a stop, that's a third. So now if we just, let's say we do a duplicate layer, there's another third. And let's do it one more time because there's another third. So the reason I'm showing you all these is just like you do the settings in your camera where you're lightening and darkening, you could also do that in Photoshop. And there's other programs that do it as well. But this is a good way to lighten and darken different areas. So what I'm going to do is we're going to delete this one. We're going to delete this one. And we're going to do it a different way now because we're going to go back to our 100 of lightning and our 100 of darkening. I said that backwards. That was the lighten. And we're going to turn this off. Turn this off. So now, here's our original image. We want to darken it 100%, which will be one stop, is right there. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here and we're going to invert this so it goes back. And then I'm going to use the history brush. Well, that's a big brush because these are small images from that. And we can darken in just where we want to darken. So maybe we just want to do these mountains a little bit and leave the trees and everything else. Let's skip the top of it for a minute. We're only working in the water. So if I repaint all this back in, almost where it's completely white, let's see if I do a little bit more. This is that full, almost that full stop, but I've only affected that area in the reflection. So we could do the same thing and go back up here to the top. we're going to make just another duplicate layer. Let's call this one darken 100% top. So,
Hey, Jerome,
yes.
you're not painting with 100% opacity.
Oh, yeah, that's because I do. So we'll do that for now too. Thank you, Stephen. You got to make sure you're not in here. You still have to be on your mask to repaint that back in. So what Stephen was saying is up here on my brush, I wasn't at 100% because most of the time when I dodge and burn, I will do it at about 30%. So about a third of an exposure. And then I do it just a little bit at a time. But for showing you this, like Stephen said, let's do the 100% right now. And then let's go back to this is our new exposure that we made, and it's still at regular capacity, but we're going to do another multiply on this one. And then we're going to do our mask, and I'm going to invert it. So again, when it inverts, it just goes back to the original, and then we can paint in where we want to be. So I'm only going to do the mountains in the top. Let's go ahead and do the bushes a little bit too. So we'll do this whole top half. So this is kind of almost like putting a neutral density or a split neutral density filter on your camera when you shoot the picture, because wherever you put that line, if you put on the horizon, I'm only affecting the top part. So now this is my top part and this is my reflection. So, and we could keep going on, and that's the basic concept of dodging and burning. Now, dodging and burning in the old days was done on a negative to a print. So it's almost kind of backwards nowadays, because when you would dodge, you would put something in front of the light that is shining down onto the paper for exposure. So you would be lightening when you were dodging. And when you were burning, you would be covering up the other areas and letting the light burn into the paper to make it darker, because the light will make it darker. So it doesn't really matter what we're calling dodging and burning, as long as you understand that dodging and burning is either putting in or taking out light. Dodging and burning is, being selective about where it is, versus like this screen where it affects the whole image. So that's our lightning again, lighting that whole image one stop. So let's go back again one more time. This is our original. We did the top half. That's technically about one stop. And then we did the reflection. That's technically about a stop on that reflection. But let's say, oops, I clicked it. Let's say we wanted the mountains and those trees on top to be 2 stops darker and not affect any of that. What I can do is actually go here and just do a duplicate layer. And right when I hit duplicate layer, it's going to add that same mask to that next layer. And so now it's twice as dark. And technically, I think this almost matches for, contrast and exposure, now that we've done it that way. Is there any questions on that? Because that's all I'm going to do here, and then I'm going to get rid of that one. I can't see everybody because I don't know where all my people went. Hey. Oh, any questions? No, we're all good?
All good, Jerome. Thank you.
Okay. We're just going to, sorry, I got to move things around because I can't get to everything. How do I move this one? There we go.
Jerome, before you leave this photo,
Yes.
when you darken the top half of the photo, Do we have to be careful with halos? Because I see halos around the
You
trees to
do.
the left.
Yeah. Yes, you do. And anything that adds contrast, so even exposure will add contrast, and a lot of times that's what is happening. It's the contrast between the sky and the trees that's creating the halo. So you don't want to do too much. You know,
Okay,
this image again, probably not the best image for competition. And now also I'm editing a JPEG. So
correct.
you're going to get more of that in a JPEG. You'll get less of that if you edit in the raw first before you get to this point.
Okay.
But just for today, it was easier to do, edit all the JPEGs. That's all I had of this image anyway. But yes, so you don't want that to happen because then, definitely judges are going to mark you down. And pretty much the halo is any of this white area that's all around the leaves, if everybody can see that. This is a little bit pixelated because it's also a very small image. So find all my,
So how would we remove that? Would we just not duplicate that layer again on the multiply?
if it gets to be too much, then yes, you can't do it. So, and
Okay.
there's always going to be, some images that you just can't get to where you want because they were shot too bright or they were shot too dark. It's hard to recover that information. And
As an option, as an option for this picture, if we were not able to remove the halos that are on those left-hand pine trees,
good.
would it work to crop from the left so we were closer into the left mountain?
I'm glad you brought that up. So this was quick, but let's see. Oh, can't find all my stuff. Sorry, guys. Where's my fit to screen not showing up? So this is going to be really small, but what if you did something like this where you just worked with the reflection
That would work.
and now you're not fighting with the trees and the halos in the sky? So I see that a lot, and it happens to me as well. I just try not to, if it's getting too bad, I'll try not to kill myself with that editing and I try and find another image where my exposure is a little bit better. But that's just an option. It's an idea. It's not always, going to be the main fix of the day. So, okay, so we are getting rid of this one. No saves. Okay, so this one actually at Judge's Corner, we were talking about where to crop it. And I was kind of saying around here, I thought, oh man, hey, does anybody know where my toolbar is? I usually have a toolbar up here, and I think it's under this, and I just can't see it.
On my screen, it's over to the left.
Okay, there it is. This is what I wanted. Fit screen. Okay. Let's go a little bit smaller. That's what I wanted. Okay. So um I don't remember where we were in the discussion, but we were talking about horizon line, and I was talking about maybe cutting some of this off. I think this adds a little bit more dynamic to the image. We want the sky because this is protruding into the sky. So if we bring the horizon line closer to, that bottom third, I think this works pretty well. Again, with this, I'm going to move. Don't need that. Again, with this, we can darken the clouds a little bit. So what we're going to do is this one's going to be a multiply. And I want to go back. All right, how do I get rid of this thing? Let's move that out of the way. We're going to go back to this, and I'm going to go back to my 33% or my third. Here, we're going to invert it. I like a big brush just because I'm doing pretty much that whole horizon. That even brought some of the texture back to the lighthouse itself. So that looks like the difference. Well, actually, even when I do that, I see some like little light beams coming through the clouds there. Now, if you think your rocks needed to go down a little bit, we could also do the rocks. Or sometimes, it takes a little bit more work, but I'll do a separate one just for the rocks. We're going to multiply because we're going to darken the rocks again. Holy cow, I've got too much stuff in here. There we go. Invert that. We're just going to do the rocks a little bit. Rocks, sky. So I think that adds a little bit more, technical quality to it. It adds a little bit more dynamic to the composition. And I think that would do a little bit better. Now, if I would get rid of this little leaf here because those two little leaves bother me. Maybe this white line that looks like a crack between the rocks or something, and then this white spot there. But that's me. I would do that a little bit more work, usually on something I'm entering into competition. If I was just going to post on social media, maybe not so much. This is a little bit bright here, but I think we're at a point where that's probably, take this down a little bit more. I think that might be, the clouds might be too bright in there. That's just, I don't always suggest something like that, but I was just trying to tone that down just a little bit so it's not such a bright cloud. I think we've probably lost most of our definition in that cloud area. Cool. Any questions? Anybody?
Just as a request, Jerome, could you go back to the background layer,
Yes.
looking where you've tried to darken down that one cloud that was blown out so we can see what that contrast was a little more clearly?
Okay, so actually, let's do this real quick. Okay, I'm going to take that out. I'm going to make a new layer just for that cloud. So that'll be this one here. I was trying to make it, this kind of color tone over here. So that's not just, that got to be careful because it's easy to do too much. So now let's go back again. So that's just the cloud. It's right now it just looks like kind of a blob of gray. But when you darken the rest of it around it, it kind of blends in a little bit. And you can also do that. Let's take this out because you don't need to you can just do a layer and you can paint on that layer. I'm doing a little bit over just so we can see it. But that's just a layer. So it doesn't necessarily have to be that whole, duplicate layer with all the other stuff. This is just a layer that's over the top.
So Jerome, knowing the photo, your base layer of that photo looks a little overexposed, would it be better to start off with it being a little underexposed before adding dodging and burning, just to maybe fix that highlight in the cloud if it's possible?
Yeah, if it's possible. And again, also, in the raw, you might have a little more latitude in the raw part of it. Again, this is just a JPEG, so if we started with the raw, you might have been able to fix that a little bit in the raw, or even in a TIFF, because usually most of the time I work in TIFFs. Sometimes if it's already a PSD, I'll do that, or if I'm not paying attention, I'll save it as that. But TIFF or PSD, at least you would have a little bit coming straight from the raw as well. Nope. Okay. And I'm gonna let that one go. Okay. I am gonna go to, let's do, I showed some of these and I had a couple questions about them, so. Okay. So I took this so you can see the light that's shining down. This is in the daytime, but I'm kind of exposing a little bit more than the daytime light. That's why it looks a little bit gray outside. Um, I know I'm going to crop, so normally I wouldn't crop till after I did all the editing, but on this one, I know I'm going to crop because I don't want the stand in there. So let's go to, sorry, I'm talking and thinking at the same time. Sometimes that's hard for me. So we're going to put it right in the middle. This up just a little bit, fit screen down. So I'm going to do the same concept. We are going to duplicate layer. This is going to be my multiply. And I'm going to do a mask, invert it, and I'm going to do 33%, working in thirds. So that's still a little bit light for me. So I'm just going to double it. I'm just going to do a duplicate layer and double it. Now I like that wood tone. You can see there's a little bit of a halo, but I didn't create enough that everybody's going to notice it, even if it's not. So let's go back real quick. That's the original, darken, darken. Now I need to see a little bit more of the outfit. So I'm going to create another one and we're going to screen. So we're going to lighten. And I don't need a lot. We're going to invert that. And we'll go ahead and do this at 100% because it didn't look like it was too much. And I'm doing kind of fast and, probably kind of sloppy. Of course, I would take more time, but just trying to get, two or three of these done and a little bit of time to show you guys. Well, her face is pretty good. Her hands are good. So I try not to affect the face or the hands. So this was for a designer that we were shooting. So that's why we need to see a little bit. I don't think the hat will come out too much. It was all black. So fit screen. So now once again, we're going to turn everything off. Background. I darkened the wood. I wanted to do it 2 stops. I think the wood looks good there. We're going to screen to bring out the outfit a little bit. So what do you think? Good, easy, too hard? That could be. And Photoshop knows more than I do. That's for sure. Anything else on this one?
To me, on her forehead, it looks like we've got a lighter reflective spot. Is there anything that we could do to tone down on the forehead a little bit?
So let's do a multiply. So she's still a little bit shiny. So we're going to do something else, but I am going to darken her forehead a little bit with this. Invert that. Let's go back. We're going to go back to our 30%. So take a couple of these shinies out, maybe her chin a little bit. And again, this is not what I would do. If I was dealing with skin, I use a couple of programs. In the Nick collection, I think it's in Color Flex Pro, there's a skin softening
Yeah.
that you can click, and it's not too bad. What you got to be careful is, I shoot a lot the red rocks, I shoot a lot on the beach, and it wants to select all the skin tones, and probably even on this one, it's going to select a lot of the wood in the background. Imagonic, I use portraiture for here. I'll click on it real quick. This one's really good about grabbing the skin, but it'll do the same thing. It finds the face and then it does all the skin tones from the face. So it probably wouldn't even affect her legs down here. It's only going to do the hands and the face. And then it's going to select some of this wood back there. Because also notice when I go back on Portraiture 4, it goes back to the original background base. It's not editing with all this stuff. What I would have to do is save all this or merge all this together to edit with all the repairs I've already done. I'm gonna cancel this though, because we're not gonna do a skin tone. But what was I doing here? Did I do anything here? No. Let me kick this one out again. What I was gonna do is do this. Yeah, we're just going to do a little bit of gray color, which I should be already there. Let's go back to 10%. That. So I'm doing this real fast. Of course, that's probably a little bit too much, but let's go back and look at the whole image as a whole. Not as much highlight as that kind of. Yeah, and we're probably better off with that, with not even putting my little gray matter on there. Does that look a little bit better? Was that Linda that was asking?
Yeah, it was me. Yep.
Okay. Does
Thank
that look
you.
a little bit better?
Yeah.
So, and sometimes I mean, I get to the point where I try and edit really fast but I try and do it fast and a little bit cleaner. Here I'm doing it kind of fast and sloppy, but I would even do that skin softening section. And I also have another program that Stephen wrote for Stephen and I that we use, and I'll do the same thing. And then I'll try and mask everything else out and just put it on the skin. So Sometimes you gotta be careful because again, doing fast, even like my print last month, Steven said my eyes looked a little soft. So while I was trying to soften her skin, I also kind of softened the eyes a little bit too much. So you just gotta be careful. And it also depends on if it's gonna print or if it's gonna be, online, because that sometimes affects it a little bit. And sometimes I will sharpen after I soften the skin. Cool. Good with this one?
Good.
Okay, we're gonna try and do one more. Save changes. No, let's go. I'm doing these because they have a lot of different layers in them already. Just, I mean, with the wood and with the model and then with the sky. So that's kind of why I was picking these out. Um, we're gonna do this one real quick. Let's go. We're gonna multiply, invert, and I'm gonna do one for each section. And again, sometimes I wouldn't do that. I would do, you know, the sky and the wood. I try and do it all together. What did I do? I think I changed that. Oh, I'm at 10%. That's why. Come on, guys, help me here. There we go. So I'm going to kick all that out. Okay. So I'm just trying to blend this sky. I like the clouds over here, but I kind of wanted it to blend with the rest of the sky. So I was just making the sky look a little more even. Then let's do another one. And we're going to do the wood on the building. I'm going to go even a little bit less because I don't think the wood needs that much. Huh, you know what? A little bit more than I thought.
Jerome, would you also need to follow through with the sky on the right-hand side?
To do what? I'm sorry.
Follow through with darkening the sky on that opening on the right-hand side?
You're talking about in here?
Yes.
Yes, and we're going to get to that. Yeah. I probably should have done that on the sky layer since I was doing different layers. I would have, like I said, normally, why am I did something. Okay. I'm going to go back here because Mary caught me on this one. So how's that look, Mary?
Much better, thank you.
That matches. Okay, so that's the Skylar. Now let's go back to this one. This is my wood layer. Did I not? No, I know what I did. We didn't do the multiply, that's why. Oh, where am I at? 100%. Let's go back to 25%. I'm going to go ahead and do her foot a little bit there because her foot is bright, that one. And I think some areas of this needs to be darker than the other areas, especially this down here with the rocks. What do you think? How's that look? Darken the wood. Darken the sky a little bit. We're going to do one more. I'm going to do a layer like I was talking about earlier. And let's do 50%. As I don't like these rocks. So I don't know if that's, I might just need to crop that to get it out of there, but I think that looks better than seeing those rocks in the bottom. Again, we might do a screen for the clothes. These clothes are a little bit lighter than the other one. And these don't need, oh, we're at 50%. Let's go. Take that back. Let's go 33%. So I like working in the 33% range because that's what I have my camera set on in exposures. So for me, and not everybody needs to do that, but I think it works good for me as far as the editing, almost in third stops as well. I feel like I have more control. I shot some other images where she's looking straight out because looking down at me, it almost looks like her eyes are closed. They're not there, but so let's take everything out. Do. Background, darken the sky, darken the wood a little bit around there. We could probably do a little bit more on that chair. I think that chair is a little bit light. I got rid of the rocks in the bottom. Then we just lighten the outfit just a little bit to stand out. And even here, I might do a little bit more for her face and darken that down a little bit again, just like we did on the last one when Linda brought up that there was like that shiny highlight on her forehead.
So Jerome, for portraitures, do you worry about lighting and what part of your photo is lighter and darker? Because if
Yes.
her face is light and it's coming from a softbox, wouldn't part of the photo also be light in that area? Or is it so focused that you don't have that bleed of light?
Yeah, this one's actually just a straight head on the pro photo. So there's no softbox on here.
Okay.
So, and those heads are only about 4 inches wide, and it's actually pretty close. You saw the stand in the other picture where it's
Yes.
only about 5 or 6 feet from her, maybe only 4 feet. This is the same thing. I'm just shooting at such an angle that you don't see it. It's sitting right down here on the ground, and I'm
Mm,
kind of like sitting right next to it. So that's why it is focused and it focuses right straight on her. Uh, I kind of had her bringing her head up, so you have almost that little bit of butterfly lighting. You have the little
yeah.
butterfly under her nose.
Yeah. Just because in landscape photography, if we did dodging and burning and the sun is off to the left, coming in to the right, wouldn't the landscape be lighter on the right-hand side as light is coming across? Do you understand what I'm trying to ask? Just
Yes.
to understand the dodging and burning and what effects you can get from dodging and burning,
Well,
other than toning things down or brightening things up, is looking at the direction of light and where that goes.
it's kind of like the sky here. The sky here is dark on the left and it's lighter on the right side because of the
Right.
clouds. But since I don't really want to draw attention up there, I'm trying to make it more even across because I want the viewer to draw more attention to the model or, in this instance, the clothes and the model.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm trying to make that more even. So in the response to a landscape, maybe it's where you want the viewer to look more.
Okay. That makes sense.
So I'm going to do one more thing, and this used to be a big thing. I'm going to say in the 90s with vignettes on everything. I remember when Rick Holmes was he really liked images that had a vignette on them, and you can do that. Like Nick Software has one, but I'm just going to do an extra layer here, and we're on dark. We go back to this. We're going to make this really big. Actually, I'm going to make the image just a little bit smaller. It's too close to the edges. So go back to this, and at 33% is probably good. And, again, I'm doing it really fast, so probably a little bit sloppy. But, just with that, you draw the attention of the viewer more into her. And the same thing on landscapes, it's kind of the same thing. I think, sometimes people accidentally get vignettes, but it's not always a bad thing, even if you accidentally get one. Now, I'm not saying do this to every image, of course, it doesn't work with everything. But it's the same thing. It's, your direction of light is what's possibly more important for your image than whether you're dodging or burning. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes
Oh,
sense.
Because sometimes you want to express that light. It is crossing from this side to that side. It's creating it, whether it's the light rays going across or the shadows going across, or just that exposure increases or decreases across your image. So if that's an important part, then you don't want to fix that or try and repair something that you took so long to find and make happen. Cool. Any other questions? I'm going to go back so I can see everybody. You're sharing. Stop share. See, hey, we got some more people in there. Hello, everybody. If I missed you earlier in the beginning,
This frame. Hey, Jerome.
hey, buddy.
When you
Jerome,
see something, you gotta go over here. You gotta go. I gotta go after this.
Okay, was somebody else going to say something, Mary?
yeah, I was gonna ask the person that has the phone, can they identify themselves so we can give them credit for attending? There's only the phone number showing up. 509 590-3616. Can they identify themselves?
I will look up the phone number and see if I have it. It is a possibility that it could be my brother
Okay,
that did the program for us.
all right.
Because I did invite him to the last couple Zooms, and I will check on that and see.
That's okay. I did a search and I couldn't find it in my car, so
Yeah, I'll check in a little bit, but cool. So I just wanted to do something that's kind of fast, kind of quick. That way you guys could just there's a lot of images that dodging and burning probably would have helped a lot in the last couple of months. And Linda was actually the one that kind of inspired me to do something to help with that. So and I know we had some newer people in the club. And so hopefully this has all helped. And unless you got any more questions, that's all I have for today.
thanks, Jerome.
Thanks, Jerome.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jerome.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
thank you.
Bye, Golf.